Welcome to the Westwood Planning Board remote meeting. All meetings are video recorded by the Westwood Media Center and filmed live on Westwood Media Center's YouTube and local government channel and Verizon channel 42. As a friendly reminder, please turn off your cell phones and ringers and please stay muted while not speaking to assist with clear audio. The meeting will be civil and all people will be treated respectfully. The format of the meeting will be when an item is called by the chair. The applicant will present their application to the board will proceed to staff comments. Board members will ask questions of the applicant and have board discussion. For public meetings, items, the public will then be given an opportunity to comment. Items that are not a public hearing, the opportunity for public comment will be at the discretion of the board. Please only one person speaking at a time and allow a moment for the Zoom audio lag to catch up to speaker. When it's time for public comment period, the town planner, as the Zoom host, will ask those wishing to speak to use the raise hand feature in Zoom or type a question in the question and answer section. To raise hand, click on the icon labeled participants. At the bottom center of screen, at the bottom of the participant window, click the button labeled raise hand and wait for the host to unmute you. You may then click lower hand after. For those participating by phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and wait for the host to unmute you. Once unmuted, please identify yourself by stating your name and address for the record. Please direct all comments and questions through the chair. All people will be given the opportunity to speak, but in the interest of time and fairness, repetitive off-topic comments may be cut short. Abby, are there any changes to the agenda?
One change that you can get to, and when you take the official vote, when you get down to number 2, that is the application from Verizon for 247 Station Drive. You had previously continued that hearing till tonight, but they did request a further continuance to your August meeting. So if there's anyone that's interested in listening to that, that won't be taken up tonight, but the board should vote to continue that hearing to your August meeting, either August 18th, but you should check that date when you get to that.
Okay, so first item is the board reorganization, or?
Is that what we're doing now?
Do you want to do that now or at the end and take the Wegmans first?
I don't have the agenda in front of me. What's on first?
First is board reorg, but then Wegmans is on the line, so if we could take them first and then go ahead to the board reorg.
In the past, we've always done the reorg first, but whatever Abby wants to do is fine with me.
Whatever anyone wants to do. Do you want me to read what's under the board reorg?
Abby?
Oh, me? Oh, yeah. So usually this is your first meeting after town meeting. So this is when you'll vote for a new, the chair position, the vice chair position, and the secretary position. And then later on, you usually go through the various subcommittees and regional committees that you're on. So if you want tonight, you can first select your chair, vice chair, and secretary, and then later on in the night, after the applicants have finished, you can vote on your other regional and subcommittees.
Abby,
Okay,
the only applicant here is for the signage stuff, right?
Correct.
So if we wanted to do that first and just get it out of the way, then they could leave and it would be
Exactly.
for everybody. I'm fine with that.
Chris, you okay with that?
Sure.
Bill?
Yeah, okay.
Would you like me to begin, Madam Chair? Or Abby?
Oh, yes, sure. We have Art here.
Okay.
Do you want me to pull up your presentation, or do you?
Let me give it a try. If you'd be a backup if that works.
Okay.
I'm going to hit screen share. Let's see, host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh, sorry. Let me. Okay, try that now.
Very good. Okay. First of all, I want to thank everybody for allowing us to make another application this year. Here again, I'm just going to give a brief history if it suits the board, and then talk about the intent and experience, and then a couple of photos. Very simple and straight application. So the history: in 2017, we had our initial application, followed by a reapplication in 2008 for a 2-year extension approval. And now we're going to be requesting at least a 2-year, if not more.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Are you sharing something on screen? Is anybody else seeing it?
Uh-oh, you're not seeing
Oh.
it?
No, sorry, I don't see it.
I hit share screen, so let me try it again. If not, Abby, you might want to grab it if this doesn't. Can you
Okay.
see anything now?
No, but let me give it a try.
Okay. Sorry about that. Send it to. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Let me try one more time. That works. I think I got it. I see it. Oh, is this a little better?
Yeah, I can see that. But now it just
I
left.
lost it again. One more try here. How about now? Anything?
No. Okay.
All right, Abby.
All right.
Back to you. So as she speaks, as she's getting ready, once again, thank you for that. Now present a quick history, some photos, and then address any questions that you might have. Abby, you're sending it, right? Or you're pulling it up?
I'm trying to pull it up. Yep. Sorry.
Okay.
Um,
All right, while Abby's trying to pull it up, you're still the co-host. Why don't you click on, okay, there we go.
is this it? Can you see it?
Yep.
That's perfect. Thank you very much. Here again, I don't know if you want to reduce that or how it reads at the other end, but if you could show that screen, in fact, if you have it for a PowerPoint presentation format, that way, as we advance it, it's just a matter of scrolling down. If not, we can work off this. This is fine.
Okay. I don't know how to do it other way.
All right, so here again, the point is we made initial in 2017. We've been before the board a couple of times because of the efficiencies and the effectiveness of the sign. And with that, in anticipation that once we get through this crisis, that will be past the period of not being allowed to use the reusable bags. So basically, based on our experience here, again, it's been a positive and effective reminder to both our current customers and new customers to use the bags here again in lieu of the plastic, which we know the challenges with plastic once it gets outside blows around, and then the whole recycling challenges with that for customers to keep in mind. As far as the visual impact, we found that across our chain of 100 stores approximately right now, there are no negative impacts. That's with consideration of the location of the sign on the car corrals, which themselves are located well away from the perimeter of the property, certainly the right of way of the roadways. And then secondly, well within the parking lot itself. And then even again, the visibility is really only the customer as they come within a few spaces of the car corral itself. The next couple of signs, this is the existing one we have now, just to give an example of the existing, or we have taken these down in the interim period, but should everything goes well, we'd like, when this expires in September, we'd like to have the new graphics up. And here again, it's a fresh new look, basically the same idea. Remind them the value to bring the usable bags in the store. Again, precluding the need for plastics and or the paper. The next two slides will show what I had made mention to as far as the car corral, and even in this photo, it's hard to see, but underneath the Wegmans sign, here again, we're well away from the property and or right of way. And it's very, the car corrals themselves are very visible. And this shows the location of the previously signs that we had up in here. Again, we're requesting approvals for the new graphics, but in the same locations on these car corrals. That is the long and short of it. Very straightforward. We have not been aware of any issues with these signs, while at the same time, this just highlights the points I made there. That it's definitely a benefit for the customers, the store, and then the community at large. With all that said, I'd be glad to address any questions.
I had a couple of questions. Can you tell me, do you have these signs in all of your locations that have corrals?
You're asking me or
Whomever.
Okay, yes, I can answer that. Yes, we do. We have this is part of our standard program. We're without the 100 store chain.
And you're proposing to replace the rectangular sign you just showed us with this circular one?
That's correct. In fact, the rectangular signs are currently down, and they would be replaced with the circular, if you will.
And no more number of signs with circular than there were rectangular?
With Anthony and Matt on the sign, they can correct me otherwise, but no addition.
Abby, can you, I had a question. The other stores in the area, are they doing, refresh my memory, are they doing similar things with signage, temporary signage? Doesn't have to be reusable bags or anything. Just, do we have anything in place?
Not for the, they don't have, there are cart corrals, I think, at Target, I believe, but there's no other signage.
I couldn't remember that there was signage there, but I just wanted to, and the reason I asked that is there something in the University Station bylaw that it just seems like every 2 years, I don't know. I mean, if this is going to keep going on in perpetuity, I don't, can we alter this, or is this something that we want to do every 2 years? I don't know. It just seems like since 17, this is the third time they've been by for whatever reason. If this is something that needs to be temporary, then fine. But I don't know. It just seems a little.
Well, I think we could. I mean, we could either not renew it, or we could extend it another couple of years, or couldn't we just approve it in general and it's not have to come back every 2 years?
Was the 2-year arbitrary at the time, the last one?
Yeah. Is that a question for me? Yeah.
Whoever has the answer.
Yes. Well, the way the zoning bylaw is written for University Station, with the signage, you expressly prohibited temporary signs such as banners.
Right.
And the purpose of that was you didn't want to have too much signage that was, over time would become ineffective. But you did allow this special application called a project-specific alternative package to allow applicants to come forward that could be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. So that allows the planning board to review each one to see if you were, in special circumstances, if you were willing to allow it. So these signs in 2016 or 2017 were allowed part of a package. So there was other kind of wayfinding signs that were throughout the development. This is one part of it. And the original purpose of the time frame was to allow a habit to develop for customers to see the sign and then over time develop the habit of bringing the reusable bags. And the thought was after a certain period, people would develop that habit and no longer need the sign. So that's why you had initially done a 1-year time frame. And then at 1 year, you extended out 2 years. So I think about 2 years ago, the discussion, you did approve it and you said, you would revisit it in 2 years in 2020. And you thought you may either decide to continue it indefinitely or end it, remove the signs, or you could do a temporary again. So
I
that's
think a couple of points for consideration are that you want the signs there to develop a habit, but yet you said you don't have any data on how successful the signs are on the bag usage. And isn't there somewhere else that you could put the signage, maybe put the bags at the entrance? Because even if a lot of people don't see the signs and then they walk in there and they realize they forgot their bags. But if they see them as soon as they walk in, they may purchase some or go back to their car and get them. So
you're correct. We don't have the metrics on that. However, to your point that you actually brought into play here is that when people, in fact, and myself included, I'll get out of the car despite the fact that I have 2 or 3 in the car, in the trunk or so. I'll get up, focused on getting in the store, and I'll get to the store and I'll say, my gosh, I forgot my bag. In the scenario where I see a cart rail there with the sign, it reminds me and I go back. But coming up to the store, certainly some people will go back, but the human nature is to keep going at that point.
Yeah, I remember when you first did this, the whole point of the location was to get to the shopper prior to them leaving their car too far. But at the same time, if it is in order to develop habits, then that would kind of indicate there's a end date goal here that we won't need the signs anymore. So it kind of makes it seem like it was a convenient argument at the time, and now we just want to keep doing it.
But interesting enough, human nature, and if I might use myself as an example again, and it could be an anomaly, but I don't think so. Even to this very day, by going to the store once, twice, 3 times a week, often I still forget about it because I'm focused on other things. One of it. And when I see the sign, which here again, from the vantage point of not being a nuisance in any way whatsoever or an negative impact, certainly here again, outside on the property line and or right of way, it's not even noticeable. The cart rails aren't even noticeable. And now certainly much less is the sign itself on the cart rail. So sum total, respectfully submit that there's nothing that has an impact on the community. Well, at the same time, it provides a definite benefit to the customers and, quite frankly, the community for not having plastic bags fly around, whether it be the property or beyond the property, quite frankly. So here again, balancing that act, that's why we're again before you, because it does serve a purpose. It does remind people, although, and I apologize, Debbie, we don't have the studies on it. It's been very successful.
Well, if it is in front of every one of your stores, it'd be hard to find a sample the other side. So it just is in place everywhere. So I don't know that metrics would be helpful for you because you have the A block, but you don't have the B. So
good point.
I think the intention of the no temporary signs was to make sure we don't have those sale signs 10% off that stay in a storefront for 24 months and it gets faded and it becomes whitewash and nobody even pays attention to it. And I'm a little, I think actually the new art will bring a little bit more attention to it, but at some point this new art will become old art and will blend in, much to how you indicate the rectangular one, the current one. People don't notice it quite as much because they've been seeing it for so long. They don't even bother reading the words. I completely agree with the goal here to help, with the bag situations. And I don't have an alternative for this. I think it does serve a purpose. It just seems, as I said in the opening, every 2 years to come back and redo this seems a little, I don't know, a little too much.
And with it, if I might suggest then, and I think one of the board members suggested this also, is that the option to, if the board would consider to have it open-ended, but should it become a problematic, again, the community at large or the board obviously see it as a negative impact outside and impacting outside our properties, then come back and restrict it. But at that point, leave the opportunity. Here again, it's, as you may noted, it's not like a sale sign. It serves a very specific mission. And here again, we think a very positive.
Abby, are we allowed to allow it indefinitely, provided the messaging remains essentially the same, so that if it is, used for the reminder of use your reusable bags that has the benefits that it does, couldn't we just, to Chris's point, not having to have to come back every couple of years, provided the signage is not changing to some other messaging, then they wouldn't need to come back.
Right. There, this section of the bylaw 9.710-15 says the planning board can approve a project-specific signage alternative as long as the board finds that it adequately addresses the needs of the development and traffic safety while appropriately balancing any impacts on the surrounding environment. So it doesn't have to be temporary in nature. It's up to the board if you find that there's no negative impacts to the surrounding environment and any safety or traffic concerns. It's not so much the what's on the sign. It's not the content of the sign, but it's the nature of the sign.
I think it's, and the purpose. Like, I think that we wouldn't want the signs to be updated to become advertising, for example. Like it starts out as a don't forget your bag, and then it's like, don't forget your bag and buy lots of stuff. So I think that if we could structure it so that it's clearly the purpose is because we want to remind people to use their bags, and that's why we would be approving it. And if this nature, the purpose, were to change substantially, then we could revisit it. But yeah, I would support just making it an indefinite, open-ended thing, because I don't think you're going to train people. I mean, you need the reminder, even if you want to do it, even if you want to remember to use your bag, they're going to need the reminder forever. And there'll be new people who are shopping. And so I really don't have a problem with that. I don't think it's going to be like 6 months later. It kind of reminds me of, like, you wouldn't remove the exit signs. You wouldn't remove the fire exit signs because you figure after a while people know where to go. If there's I see this as more of a helpful thing for people so they don't turn around halfway and go back to their car, or they get to the door and they're frustrated. It's a very inobtrusive thing that should just be standard for people going into a business. So I would support extending it as long as we can ensure that it doesn't get changed into advertising.
I do have a question. You want these signs up there for people to reuse their bags, but yet you don't offer really paper bags inside the store if they forget them. You're mostly
Actually,
plastic.
we do have the paper and the plastic.
I've never seen the paper. I've only seen the plastic. So you do carry the paper in there in the same amount as the plastic?
Yes. Matt and Anthony are the service manager.
Hi, folks. My name is Matt. I'm the store manager at the Wegmans in Westwood. We do have plastic and paper bags at the store available.
Okay. Bill, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, well, I would prefer that they come back again in 2 years. And maybe and see how it works over the next 2 years. I just think signs after a while become part of the landscape. You don't really notice them, but they do intrude upon people's vision. So I wouldn't make it open-ended.
So when you have to come back every year, every 2 years, does that make you more responsible in terms of evaluating the signs, make sure they're not getting rusted, that they still look aesthetically pleasing? If we do open-ended, how are we going to make sure that that carries through?
As I think indicative, and if you do shop at the store,
I'm sorry, you keep going in and out.
I'm sorry, it must be my cable connection. But similar to any of our stores, and if you've ever been to a store, whether Westwood or anywhere else with 100 change, across the board, we have the highest qualities, whether it be the look of the exteriors, the interior, the operations. And that goes all the way through our maintenance program, whether it's be landscaping, the car corrals, the pavement rehabs. Across the board, we have ongoing maintenance programs. Signage is one. I can assure you there will never be a rusted sign out there. We'll be the first to self-police that and have those replaced.
Well, I think we could say if it becomes unsightly, that's a problem. And that would trigger a visit to the board. And it would be on one of the board members, the town planner, or whomever, to bring it to the attention of Wegmans that it's not up to our standards.
And with that said, if I might say, if it ever came to the attention of anybody, whether it be a customer, yourselves, board member, here again, I dropped a line right in the store on the phone to Matt, Anthony, anybody that's at the front desk, it will be, I can assure you that it'll be taken care of immediately.
Board members, if I may, this is Matt again. I can assure you every morning when I walk into that store, I walk into that store like I'm walking into my home. And when I see masks on the ground, when I see gloves on the ground during the COVID pandemic, it's my team that's out there picking up that stuff to make sure our store and our community looks good every morning. And I can assure you of that. You know, yesterday we walked out and there was a tree that had fallen over due to all the rain. And we're the ones that went inside, you know, it's not our development. And we're the ones that roped it off and put the cones out to make sure nobody got hurt. So I can assure you our high standards are if those signs did not look like they deserve to be outside of Wegmans and in Westwood, we would replace them immediately.
I might, speaking to the indefinite length of time on this, maybe we don't make it indefinite. Maybe we just extend it out more than 3 years, 2 years, maybe make it 3. I'm just thinking out loud here, but instead of saying, you know, it's fine until it becomes a problem, maybe we say, instead of 2 years, come back after 3 or 4, or whatever the board may agree to on that. I'm just trying to find a happy medium there. It just 2 years seems a little too quick in a development like this to me, to come back for a small sign like this.
Chris, I'd agree, and it doesn't sound like there's anybody who's saying that they want to deny the application at this point. So if we can extend it a little bit further, and that's the happy medium to, indefinite, then let's get that done.
Any other comments? Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the applicant's request to alter the Remember Your Bag signage and be allowed for a period of 3 years, at which time it needs to revisit the practice back to the town planner for discussion from the planning board.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Let's see, Rob? Should we go through and do a roll call?
Roll call?
Yes, I think.
Yeah.
Rob?
Aye.
Chris?
Support.
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I, myself. So, no. Motion passes.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate the time, certainly in the effort, and
Thank you very much.
appreciate it.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Stay safe. Happy 4th.
Thanks, you too.
You as well.
So next up, Abby, is the board reorg. Or do you want to, should we continue the Verizon? We'll continue the Verizon meeting first.
Sure. Earlier, I had suggested the August 18th for your meeting, so you should all check if that date works for you. I think Dave mentioned he may be away then, so it's up to you. The applicant did request a continuance to August 18th, but I let him know that tonight you would need to check your schedules and vote on the new date and time.
So I'm okay with that, actually. I mean, I can call in as or most of these meetings are remote now, so.
I should be available. I'm moving my son to college, and I think I'll be back by then, but
And maybe in the midst of that very same thing, actually probably heading to a similar destination.
drive back together.
So would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we continue that hearing to August 18th.
So that's Tuesday, August 18th at 7 p.m. And that would be another remote meeting through Zoom. So we'll send out the Zoom details when that gets closer.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And roll call will go. Rob, you first. Aye. You want a roll call?
Aye, sorry, I was just unmuting.
That's okay. Chris?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I. So 5-0, the motion passes. So now we move on to the board reorganization. By the way, I want to say welcome, Rob, to the board.
Thank you, Deb.
You're
Glad to
welcome.
be here.
Same to you. So, so here we're going to vote for the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary. So we can entertain any recommendations.
I'll make a motion to have Debbie be the chair.
I second. We're on motion and second. We'll start with you, Rob.
Nate?
Chris?
No.
Dave?
No.
And Bill?
Yes.
And I, yes. Any discussion?
After the vote. No.
I'm sorry, what?
No.
So I'm a little surprised since it's customary for the vice chair to move up to the chair. And I hope it's not because there's never been a woman chair in a very long time. And I'm a little disappointed in the vote.
Well, normally the vice chair would move to the chair. Usually does. This would be a first, I think.
I agree.
It's not a first.
No.
No.
So we have,
First time we'd have a woman as a chair.
I would make a motion to nominate Dave Atkins for the chair.
we have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second that.
So Bill?
No.
Dave? You're on mute.
Yes, I just wanted, I kind of thought it would be good to just, well, I want to include everybody. Like when I was chair, I tried to open this up and schedule things and all that. And so I think, I would look forward to helping to make the board work. So that's.
Chris?
Yes.
Did I hear you? And Rob?
Yes.
And I, no. So passes 3-2. So we have vice chair. Would like to make a nomination?
I'll nominate Chris.
We have a nomination, a motion, and a second. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second, and Bill?
No.
Dave?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And no for me, so it passes 3-2. And secretary. I nominate Bill DeLay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Rob?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I for me, so that passes 5-0. So the board has been reorganized, and now we move on to the boards. Do you want to go through them, Abby?
Sure, or let's see, do you want to do that next? The various like subcommittees and stuff?
Sure.
Just real quick, I saw in the notes that for some of them, you mentioned the sort of timing and frequency, what the cadence of those is. If anybody where there wasn't that information could just help me out as the new guy, it would help me to know whether or not I can actually put my name forward for any of them. So I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Let's see, so
Did you mean the descriptions, Rob, in the meeting packet, or like the schedule of meetings, or what?
Yeah, in the descriptions, Abby would, where she knew, she would put when they would meet, what the frequency and sort of where, and the time of day and that type of thing, and just work schedules that we all I don't know which would be more of a burden than others. So for me, at least for me personally, that's all.
Abby, could I share my screen? I made a list of.
sure. Oh yeah, hold on, let me just yes, you should be able to do that now.
Oh, I see why it was okay. So this is just, I did a quick list of the boards, and can you see? And so all of these, so the way it works is that the planning board recommends to the select board, and the select board makes the appointments, right?
Yes, that's right. So tonight you usually make your recommendation, then the selectmen at one of their meetings, usually, over the summer, they'll make their official appointments.
And are all of these positions like every year it gets redone, or are some of them like continuing from one year to the next? Because I thought some of them were.
Yes, I know at least, I think the one where I think the MBTA advisory board, I think Steve Olenoff is on a 3-year appointment. So he's in the middle of that. His term isn't up. The other ones I think are usually 1 year, but each year you do usually update that recommendation. And in the past, you try to be consistent. So that's the person maybe that's on in the past, if that schedule is working for you, if you're able to attend the meetings, you try to maintain a person, board member that's able to be consistent at going to the meeting. So some years you've had the same member on the same committee throughout their term. So that's up to you. I know. So if you want to go through each one, as I had some descriptions of timing. I think the MAPC one, I don't know their timing. I think they meet. Yeah, right. Okay, so Dave says quarterly in the mornings, and it's usually in Boston.
So everything's kind of up in the air now, but I also like, what is it? Is it a requirement? Like a lot of these groups, there are a variety of people. Like I'm on Trick right now, and there's a select board member there. There's town planners from Canton and Walpole. There's other people, so it's not it's not always planning board people. So I just wondered, as we make these recommendations, does it have to be someone from, like, I'm wondering, like with Steve Olenoff as an alternate member, like we've been reappointing him, but it's not like it has to be a member, like one of the five of us necessarily. Do you know, or is that our custom here?
Well, I
Um,
think Steve Olenoff is a member of the MAPC, and as a alternate member of the planning board, I think he's kind of satisfying both. So MAPC wants him back, as I understand it, and it just is it kind of, he wants to do it. He's a resident, he's qualified, and so as long as the select board is fine with him being our representative to that, and he wants to do it, I think that's why he's continuing. But he's the only, as far as I've been part of the board, he's the only non-board member who's been representative to any of these organizations. Is that right, Abby?
in my time since I've been here, yes, I know Nora's on the line. Maybe she knows before, but in the last 5 years since I've been here, it's usually been board members. However, there are some towns will appoint staff or board members, and I have seen, in other towns I've worked in, they have also appointed sometimes, an associate or an alternate member. I think a lot depends on availability on who's able to go to the meetings, and but I think,
Wasn't he chosen for like a 3-year term on one of these, Steve,
yes.
by the organization itself? So
Uh,
he's going. It's just whether or not we make him our Westwood representative.
right. And
If I could just add that MAPC does appoint people for 3-year terms. They look to the select board for information on who they think is the most appropriate representation for the MAPC. In the past, the town administrator has been the representative. I've been the administrative representative or the alternate on different years, and Steve Olenoff has done it consistently. He has proven his ability to attend these meetings on a regular basis, and so he has either been the representative or the alternate for at least the last 10 and maybe 15 years. But there have been times when representatives have been other than planning board members.
And I wasn't, I'm not looking to kick Steve off there. I just wanted to kind of clarify how, it's these things are, the town ultimately recommends and then the boards decide and stuff. So it's not necessarily, it's really who's interested and who's able to go. And getting to Rob's point, it was like the MAPC is a quarterly meeting, and it's typically, they rotate the location, but it's a trip into Boston maybe, or out to another suburb, and it's like half a day. So that's kind of hard. It's good to have somebody that's retired who can consistently be a part of that. But it's also, I was the alternate for a while, and it was good to go to those meetings and learn stuff about it. So I think that's useful. The MBTA.
If someone from the planning board is interested in eventually being the representative when the 3-year term is up, it would be very helpful for them to start as the alternate and attend the meetings and find their role in MAPC so that the board would be able to appoint them when that current 3-year term is up.
Well, I was the alternate this past year.
And would you like to remain that, Bill? I mean, I would be, this would probably be the one that would be the most, the one that I could probably make the commitment on. And I would certainly be happy to be the alternate to Steve and kind of like Dave was saying, learn from him. But Bill, if you want to continue in that role, I have no great need to.
Well, I mean, if someone else can do it, I mean, the last meeting that we had was a Zoom meeting. Obviously, I don't think Steve was there. I don't know why. But I didn't hear his name called. But if you want to do it, I could take on another committee.
Again, I'm only asking if it's something that you really, want to be a part of, and I'm just looking to learn a little bit. And so me riding shotgun with somebody like Steve, who's been involved with this stuff for so long, that would probably be the best place for me to get involved. I don't know that I could do some of the other things. So, but again, I'm not looking to in any way supplant anybody. So only if there's something else that interests you.
No, go ahead. I'll see if there's another committee that interests me.
Thank you.
Housing partnership. Chris,
We haven't met. Sarah hasn't called in a little while. I do like serving on that. I think I work well with Sarah, and the subject matter is of particular interest to me. So I'd like to continue on if I could, unless someone else really wants it.
Yeah, well, that might be maybe Bill, would you want to be the alternate on that maybe, or?
No.
Let's see, anybody?
Is this for the housing partnership?
Yes.
I'll be the alternate.
And the MBTA advisory board, again, it met 3 times after many years of not meeting, and then I don't know if it's met again. Maybe Bill, have you? And you could just leave that as is unless anybody really wants to jump into that. The Regional Transportation Advisory Council is the hardest meeting, right? Because it's like in Boston at the Transportation Building every month, second Wednesday. And as an alternate, I didn't make it to any of those meetings. So please, somebody else jump in.
Question for Abby or Nora: what happens if we don't have somebody who can do this? To Dave's point earlier, does it have to be someone from this board?
It does not. So the planning board is offered the opportunity to fill the space, but the select board will appoint someone else if there's no one from the planning board that's interested in filling that role.
I mean, we don't have anybody who can really speak to it, I guess, but it's an important board, and I will make a better effort. And since it's Zoom, I would be okay to be the regular person for this, if that's, I just wanted to see if somebody else would. I don't see anybody jumping out, but we still need someone to be an alternate, because like you say, it's once we get back to in-person meetings, it's, you're looking at a trip into Boston on
But
Wednesday.
to Nora's point, it doesn't have to be a planning board member if this group of volunteers can't commit to that. So it may remain vacant for now, and the select board could select an alternate.
For the newbie who doesn't know all of the abbreviations, Regional Transportation, is that what it says?
Yeah, it's
No, Transportation Advisory Committee.
Would this be something that Steve would have any interest in, given that he's on the MBTA? I would think that there would be sorry for the dog. I would think that there would be at least some overlap from a content topic standpoint.
He did serve on that for many, many years.
So we could ask him if he's interested in being the alternate. Or the select board could ask him if he's interested in being the alternate.
all right. We could.
I would say for now, right, we leave it blank. Oh, I mean, I don't think we can insert Steve's name in there.
You've been volunteering.
We have to talk to him. It needs the courtesy of a phone call.
All right. the Three Rivers Interlocal Council. So I've been on that for the last year, and I volunteered to be the vice chair this year, so I would like to continue with that. It's a sub-region of the MAPC, and it's the towns of around us, so Dedham, Westwood, Norwood, Canton, Walpole, Randolph, Sharon, like that whole Neponset River Valley. The Neponset River Chamber of Commerce person's there, and they're focused on, at this point, they're focused on sharing information about like what are towns doing about COVID-19 and everything. So it's potentially has a lot of good stuff that they could do to facilitate towns working together.
I served on that for my first 3 years on the board, and I'm happy to be the alternate if you want to stay on, as you indicated.
All right.
Unless someone else wants to be the alternate.
And Pedestrian and Bike Safety Committee. So I think in the meeting, in the notes, Abby, you said, you attend most of those meetings and can always report back to the board. Steve Olenoff is a regular member of that too, right?
Right. I mean, I haven't attended many in the last year, maybe one or two, but before that I was pretty regular at these meetings as an ex officio member. And Brian, so I think Brian and I were at the last one. They haven't met in a while. I think maybe it was in February was the last time they had an in-person meeting. But usually they meet on the fourth Thursday of the month, and they'll hear reports from Public Works, Police Department, and Planning Board. If there's any applications that they want to review, they'll make a recommendation to the Planning Board. So as an ex officio member, if I get any of those recommendations, then I include them in your packet and report them to you.
And it's important to remember this is a sub committee or whatever of the planning board itself.
Yes.
It's not
So
just a town thing. This is a planning board group.
Right,
yes.
and it's like we on the board, we're not going to have the same opportunity to talk a lot about things like the Gay Street sidewalks or the pedestrian crosswalk safety improvements, or residents who come in and have concerns about unsafe conditions in town. I mean, there's a lot of things that the Pedestrian Bike Safety Committee can have a more thorough discussion about. And it's like, as Abby, as the planning board person, is there, typically there's someone from the police department. I think didn't Paul Sicard is no longer doing that because he got promoted, right?
Yes.
Dave, you can put me down for this one.
Okay. Thank you.
It's actually 1B though, Dave.
Oh,
It's okay.
are there any other committee appointments or recommendations?
I believe that was all of them. So after tonight, I would send the memo to the select board, and then they would make their official appointments at one of their upcoming meetings, usually at some point over the summer. So once I officially get that back, we'll get that to you, and then you'll be added to some of these organizations' distribution lists. So right now, I imagine most meetings are probably remote. For the foreseeable future right now. So they may have more meetings than usual, and they have but you'll be probably getting information in the next several weeks on those.
And historically, we did have subcommittee reports during the planning board meetings. There would often be because it's part of it is just finding out what's going on. Like, although like they'll make announcements at these meetings, like there's the Shared Streets Grant Program that MAPC is doing, and actually Westwood already jumped on that without it being reported from a meeting or anything. But still, there's that's part of the value of these, is to have people go and attend, and they also want to hear from us. So like the trick meeting is, there's always a community share, which can turn into like an hour of the meetings, each town going by and talking about what's going on in their town related to economic development or whatever. So it's good to bring that back to this board. So what's our next?
Okay. The next agenda item, I had a comprehensive plan update. I wanted to just update you, and if you have any questions for me of what the committee's been working on. So the steering committee of the full comprehensive plan committee, they last met in March. And since that time, there's been, myself has been working with a core group of three members that are reviewing each section, each draft of each section to make sure it's consistent, final editing, trying to make sure we incorporate all the comments that we've heard since the committee presented to you in the fall or early winter. And then they're also working on reviewing, certain sections are being reviewed by relative staff members and various boards and committees. So they are looking for some letters of support and have visited some committees. Some of them were before we went remote earlier in the winter, and then some have been at some of these remote meetings looking for comments from various boards and committees. So we're about halfway through of the plan sections. There's 9 subject areas, and then we also have introduction, in summary, and implementation matrix. So we have pretty much a draft of most sections, but it's once this kind of outbreak happened, we are still working on it, working with the volunteers. It's just been taking a little bit longer than I expected to give everyone time to review with, the changes to everyone's schedule. But we are reviewing them and getting them back to the subcommittees that includes the planning board liaison. So some of you have received those. And if you need more time, or if you take a look at those sections and let us know of any feedback or any ideas for any edits or changes to be incorporated. And working with the committee, the idea is once everyone reviews and has the opportunity to review each section, then they're going to call a full steering committee meeting together. So I hope that would be the next month or so, or this summer, have a meeting, and then they would review their full draft plan. We would get that posted on the website and distributed. Then they would also vote to send that plan to the select board for their review and comments, and then come back to you for a final review in a public hearing. So they would want to have, the idea is we'd have a full public hearing before you to summarize all the changes and present the final updated plan with everything incorporated since they were last before you, which began last October and continued through early January. So if you have any questions or ideas.
Abby, has the 2 sections that Brian was the liaison to, have they come back to the board? I forget which sections he was in.
Right. So we do. So Brian was on transportation and open space and recreation. So Brian did get a final copy of the transportation section. That was one of the earlier sections that we finished, had everyone look at. The open space and recreation plan section is still in a draft form. That's still coming through the committee members, so that we probably need to bring Rob up to speed a little bit on some of these. So I know Rob doesn't have the history of all that, but I can get Rob some more information and review more of the drafts with you. I could definitely.
Yeah, I've read the vision guidelines and watched the meeting from back last spring. So if Brian was serving as the conduit on something like open space and rec, and you need me to review things, happy to do so.
Okay. And I forgot to add that, when this ultimately the comprehensive plan needs to be adopted by the planning board. And then once the planning board adopts it, it is a living document that you refer to. It's a policy guiding document. So it has a number of goals, objectives, and some action items. So this is a good time to work on these items. New applications and new construction has slowed right now, so this is a good time for us to work on things like finishing up this plan, and then also this summer we want to work on some of these some other zoning changes as we move into the fall.
So Abby, the with zoning changes, the next thing on the agenda there was you wanted to talk about this timeline for the summer.
Right. So recently, town meeting was a couple weeks ago, and due to the the public health crisis that we're in, the town meeting warrant was reduced to only the financial articles. So all the zoning changes that you had brought forward, there are, I think, 4 of them in the end, 4 or 5. Those, if you want to go forward with those, then you should review those, and you can review those tonight. Because they will have to be resubmitted and go through the warrant process and have a new public hearing with you, the planning board, and the Finance and Warrant Commission to go back before town meeting. So usually, there's a chance the select board could have a special town meeting, but consistently what the town usually does is there's a fall town meeting, maybe a fall town meeting, which is usually the second Monday in November. And that warrant usually closes in September. So usually in the summer, July, August, the planning board will start to look at and start discussing what zoning amendments that you'd want to submit. And then you usually vote to submit those to the warrant. It's usually right around Labor Day. So it's usually around your early September meeting. You'll review and you'll submit to the warrant, and then we get a public hearing scheduled. I don't know exactly the Finance and Warrant Commission schedule, but they usually have a public hearing in October. So you usually have your hearing with the planning board early October. Then you go to the Finance and Warrant Commission's public hearing, and then the recommendation from the planning board and the Finance and Warrant Commission goes to town meeting in early November. So generally, the town meeting schedule in the fall is a much shorter time period. The annual town meeting in the spring is a much longer time period. So usually, a lot of times the planning board may want to choose some of the bigger items or the items that require more review, or you want more public input. You may hold off for the spring annual town meeting because there's usually at least 2 FinCom public hearings, and then you usually have it as a public hearing at your meetings for 2 or 3 meetings. You'll have one first one, but then you'll have it continued for a couple. So the spring is usually the time where you have more public hearings related to zoning.
Abby, can I just ask a rookie question here? We started talking about the comprehensive plan, and then we talked about work for the summer. And I'm assuming, based on everything that I'm hearing, the only things that we would be taking up related to zoning changes for a fall town meeting would be things that this board has previously already discussed. It wouldn't be informed by the comprehensive plan because we have not adopted the comprehensive plan yet. And so I just want to make sure that I'm hearing things and processing things correctly.
You can decide to work on other zoning articles more than what was submitted in the spring if you'd like. So that is something you can work on this summer. So I'm interested to hear from you tonight. If you have new ideas, I can try to prepare some for your next meeting in July, and then you have a meeting in August. So I think we have some time now. Maybe all the ideas in the comprehensive plan you may not get to just yet, but you can start working on some other changes. So you can decide tonight or this summer if you want to bring forward these ones that you worked on in the spring again, or you can bring forward some additional new zoning articles.
When are we hoping to finish the comprehensive plan?
Well, as soon as
I know it's ASAP.
Yeah,
I get
but,
that. But
um,
realistically,
realistically, it's probably early fall. I mean, because I do have to get the steering committee members together. So at the
so September, October. So it's still on our in our radar
or
for the next few months.
couple months. Couple months.
All right, couple months.
So for the town meeting articles, we had, some of them were pretty straightforward, like the gun regulation thing. And in fact, I think I heard that Dedham's changes were approved by the Attorney General. So like that one seems like a no-brainer just to resubmit it. Everybody, I think, supported it. And so could you for the next meeting just have a list of those things? And if it's something like that where everyone agrees, we just resubmit it, then we can just go through the hearing process and all, but kind of put that out there as one where it's the language is set and we're good to go. There were some of the others that were where they needed more work or something. Maybe we could have people this time, like maybe a couple of people to just work on that outside of the meetings. Like we could have two people, that say take the one that was about regulating short-term rentals. I mean, that one is not as, like today, I don't know what the effect of that is right now with COVID and Airbnb is like going to pieces. But the issues that people were raising, we should follow a process so that we can bring it back up effectively. So maybe let's, if there's a couple of people that want to, maybe it would help if we put a couple of people from the board to those particular articles to then come back at the following meeting and just, kind of collect things and move it forward. I'm just thinking that we want to avoid, getting to October and, we didn't do anything.
Well, it seems like when's our next meeting, Abby? July what?
July
17th?
21st.
21st. Why, if you circulate what those articles are, and we'll be prepared to say as a board member, we want to move individually, we want to move forward with this or we don't, for the fall or springtime meeting, whatever it might be. I think we need to first solve that equation. Is the board supportive of particular articles and moving that forward? And then if they are elected to go forward, then we'll figure out how best to do that by assigning people to it. But I don't think the board's prepared at this point to decide on which articles are going to go forward.
And I think that, we need, we've seen from FinCom, like, we need to go in there with something that is a consensus. And, let's start over, or not start over completely, but let's just say there was a valid reason for people suggesting everything that was on the agenda last time. And it's just the concerns may not have been, we didn't like the way it ended up or something, but let's start that process over and try to get to FinCom with 5 people who agree on these things, because that's the only way we're going to move this stuff forward. And I don't know the medical uses. Let's everybody go home and think about that one, because I don't know that that one has always been a big pain in the neck. So
I've done some thinking about that, and I think that the real missing part here is the public input for selection of which zone the town is comfortable zoning this article in. And so I think I'd like to, you don't have to answer tonight, but I'd like the board to think about how best to reach out to the public so the public is satisfied that we've done everything we can as a board to hear the town. We're never going to find a zone where everybody agrees. That's it. And I don't have a problem with it. But I think we have to do a better job in acknowledging that we heard from people before. And that's the issue. I think everything else, the language has been vetted a couple of times. It was passed. I don't think a lot of work has to be done with it. I think, but we need to do a better job reaching out to the public And I've had thoughts about, do we create a task force, a small working group, not a huge task force like the Islington Center task force, which was a little unwieldy. But I think if we create a group of people and show the town we're doing our job, we're listening to our constituents, we're hearing what they have to say. We have a job to do to zone this thing. And sticking our head in the sand and crossing our fingers is not doing our job. And we can't just keep kicking this down the road or trying to see if the select board will take part of it like they were willing to do this last time. So I think fall town meeting is too ambitious for something like this. But I think by spring town meeting, we should be able to find out, which way the wind is blowing, so to speak, for the town, and what is the best zone to put this article into. So I'd like the board to not tonight. I know I'm just throwing it at you, but I think this is the real Rubik's Cube for this article: is where is it going to go? And it's up to us to answer the hard question and figure that out.
So I think, did anybody else have any comments? Or I'd like to see the energy efficiency stuff come back. I know, Bill, you were very interested in that, and I was interested in it. I thought that the net zero thing would be good, but then that got FinCom didn't want a non-binding resolution, so I think we kind of need to address energy efficiency and zoning if that's something we're going to do. It's not just so. Any other?
Well, the planning board hasn't addressed it in years. You've just let so many opportunities go by. If people in the planning board and in the town are serious about it, then maybe we should go forward. But right now, everything that we've done, it seems like we're not going to be leaders. We're going to wait till everybody else. We run out of fossil fuel, then we'll switch over.
Let's see, Abby, anything else on the? So next meeting, you'll bring kind of the list of things, and people, we can come and discuss, prioritize, and all that.
Yep. So I'll pull together what you had before and any other ideas I might have. So if you think of anything, and anything you want me to be working on in the meantime, you can let me know. I know it's about 3 weeks to your next meeting. So I do have some time to work on some zoning. So I'll try to prepare any ideas I might have or think of, especially I know I've probably made a list somewhere, so I'll go through a list and try some ideas that you can review for your next meeting in July.
What about COVID-19 and businesses in town? Like, I see other towns are doing, like Norwood has this whole Central Street covered in AstroTurf, and Dedham has like set stuff out. And is there a role for this board to play, like in dealing with businesses in town? Or
So I can speak to that a little bit. I'm working with businesses one-on-one, and we're addressing their needs as they find is appropriate. The only one we have so far that's actually set up outdoor dining is Kiara. They already had an outdoor facility and they expanded it during the COVID-19. We have also granted a license for the Toast office to do the same. They've chosen to accept the new license, but hold off on actually creating the seating. And another business that was interested in doing it is BB's Cafe. They received their approval to put outdoor tables there, and I believe they are doing that. And then another one that we have been speaking to is Camellas, and they're trying to find the way that would work for them. Most of our other restaurants either have outdoor dining already or are simply not interested in it. Now that they're able to open indoor or just continue with takeout, many of them are doing that. Some of our restaurants are predominantly takeout anyhow, so they've decided not to. As far as retail, we always have the option as well for retail establishments to have some type of outdoor display. They just simply need to get approval from the building commissioner on that. So the The state has loosened restrictions, and the select board's office has adopted a program that allows for a quick review of applications. So we're working individually with businesses to see what their needs are and to try and meet them. I also have amassed a list of email addresses. Prior to the pandemic, we really were just contacting most of our businesses by phone and by mail. Most of them had not provided email addresses. I had sent out a request to all businesses, and a good number of them submitted email addresses. So it makes for much easier communication and direct communication on particular issues affecting particular businesses. So I don't think there's any blanket need that needs to be addressed by the planning board at this time, but I will certainly let you know if I hear from any business of something that they're looking to do that they don't have the ability to do right now.
Let's see, what's next? Do we have, Abby, you had prepared a best practices document about planning board. We might want to look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've had this for the last couple of years now. We usually review this, at this first meeting of the year. It's kind of a list of, practices for the board. We may want to think about any ways to also update this for as we are remote. I was kind of thinking tonight, maybe we should introduce members at the start of the meeting, or introduce you at the beginning, but anything you can think of. So what I put together was really that, I try to send out your electronic meeting packet as far in advance as we get it, usually about 3 weeks prior to the meeting. So tomorrow or this week I'll send out one for the July meeting. You have one application on an earth material movement application, so we'll get that to you. And so board members should start reviewing applications when you get them, when you have time. When you first get it, it'll be mostly the applicant's material and the public hearing notice. But as the meeting gets closer, usually right before the meeting, the week before, I'll be uploading it with more information, such as history of the project, such as past decisions, a summary, staff comments, any peer review reports. And then I try to always, the Friday before your Tuesday planning board meeting, send out a email with the final update and summary, most up to date of all of your agenda items. And then, so recommended, if you have any questions, to try to contact me or staff in advance, so we can try to get you answers or get you any more information prior to the meeting. That way we can try to get you that information before your meeting so that you can be prepared. So just contact me if you need anything while you're reviewing applications.
So one thing I found helpful was a couple of years ago was that I would call you or talk to you on like Thursday, and I think like the Thursday before the meeting, I think it would be good that any board member that wants to put something on the agenda, or if someone wants to be on that call or something like that, like one other person, but if that's helpful to kind of get things more structured, and also deadlines for people, so that I don't think we've had it happen as much this time as applicants giving us things 2 hours before the meeting. But if we stick to a timetable of the packet is going out, and we finalize the agenda like on the Thursday before the Tuesday meeting, then I think that'll kind of give everybody a better amount of time to deal with things.
Right. And and if anyone ever has, something that you want to add to the agenda, I usually try to post on Wednesday, the agenda. It just, goes to the website, to the town clerk uploads it. So let me know, try to let me know if you have something, if you think by Wednesday. I mean, we have to post all agenda items 48 business hours in advance, but I usually try to post it on the Wednesday before your Tuesday meeting, just to make sure that there's time. But we can add stuff. So, but if you think of something, let me know the week prior. I try to tell applicants, if they need to be on the agenda, I recommend a week in advance, and try not to get new material, right up into the meeting, but sometimes if we ask a question or if staff is looking for more information, some applicants are able to provide that in response, maybe a revised plan or some, extra photographs or something. But I usually try to get all new information in the week prior, so that you have at least a few days, or definitely by Friday. That way you have the weekend into your Tuesday meeting to look at it.
Did anyone else have suggestions for this? Or
Abby, I had a question on the best practices, and if it was in there last year and I missed it, I'm sorry. On page 1, the last bullet point refers to motions, and it seems like it's asking the vice chair and the secretary to always make a motion and always be the second. Seems like that takes away a lot of the organic nature of a meeting. And if the vice chair or the secretary don't agree or want to make the motion, it doesn't give them any room. Is that something we have to keep in here?
Oh, no, right. So anyone can make the motion. So I can change that. I guess if I have a recommendation, I'll try to draft one, just to help. The purpose of it is just to guide you, so you, with your some standard conditions, so that we remember them, that you're consistent in them. But you can always add to those. You can change those. You don't have to follow those motions. So I usually just try to think in advance what you might ask, and then I put those in there. But yes, any member can make the motion, or they could change a motion, and they can second it. So I can change that.
I mean, I think it's when things are very straightforward, it's okay, but I don't want it to be just this automatic cycle. I think the meetings are going to be more organic. We tried to make things more efficient, and then that's not necessarily the best thing, because we need to be, and so I don't think we should have a default practice like that. I think we can I can just say, will someone make the motion, and then somebody will.
Okay. I guess something new when we think about, as we're going remote, we should remember when we have public hearings, just throughout each agenda item, to inform the audience and remind them of how to raise your hand function by phone or by the raise your hand button. So it's a little bit different format, but we should try to make sure we remind people if anyone joined the meeting late, if it's their first meeting.
Yes, I think.
And we do have a hand raised.
Yeah, I think, Nada, do you want to comment? I know we're kind of opening it up we just want something to work well here. So if Nada, if you could speak briefly or comment.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Good evening.
Yes, we can hear
you. First, I don't know, is this the public comment portion? And I was expecting Debbie Conant to ask if there were public questions.
So there's at this point, there's not like a formal public comment part of this. It's just
Okay.
we were discussing things as a board, and I saw you raised your hand and wanted.
And I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Dave. So I guess my first question would be, Abby, could you reiterate the reorganization of the board, please? It was a little confusing, and I would like to know, and I think other residents would like to know, who is the chair, who is the vice chair, and who is the secretary? And how long has a secretary position been procedural? Because I don't recall a secretary ever being nominated or approved for a planning board. That's my first question.
Right.
Please.
We have had a secretary. We've had a secretary, at least it's pretty common, but the planning board, we do have a recording secretary, and that's Jessica here. So usually the actual writing of the minutes is either a staff function or we have Jessica serving as the recording secretary, but we do have that position of secretary. And the board did vote earlier. They voted for Dave Atkins to be the chair, Chris Paff to be the vice chair, and Bill DeLay as the secretary for this next year.
Thank you. My second comment is past practice of about all of the town boards has always been that a vice chair is the successor to an outgoing chair. And the votes tonight simply reflect a vested interest to maintain a pathetic status quo that existed 3 years ago before the makeup of this planning board has suffered a tremendous upset. And I feel, Chris, you say you're doing your job. My feeling is you are not doing your job. You belittle residents, you are argumentative, you say, you insult my intelligence. Because from what I see, now the makeup of the board has changed, and now it's just going to be rubber stamping everything again that comes through. And I think it's pathetic, and I think it's disgusting that Debbie Conan is not the chair. I think it's disgusting. And that's my opinion. And you look at all the other boards have chairs and vice chairs, and FinCom.
Nada, I don't have a gavel, but I just want to respectfully interrupt you and say we listen to you and we'll continue to listen to you, but I want these meetings to move on, and to this is what happened. I don't think it was a great way that the vote happened tonight, but I want to make this board work better. So let's work together and get it done. So let's go to are there any other board member comments on the procedures, on the best practices of the board?
Dave, the only thing I'd like to say is that you've been very helpful in getting me all the information in a really timely fashion when you've indulged me with a lot of rookie questions, so I appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, so I think, why don't we move on to the last thing on the agenda are the meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the meeting minutes from January 28th and what was the other one?
May 26th.
May 26th.
I need a little bit more additional time to review the minutes.
Yeah, I have not looked at them yet, actually.
All right, is there any new business or anything else anyone wants to bring up?
So, in regards to the minutes, I talked to the AG's office today, and they said that they have, has the board at all or the town received any correspondence from the AG's office? No? So the AG's office said that they've been in contact with the complainants and Attorney Goldberg, and we should have received documentation or been in receipt of the information. So if we could have something sent over to Attorney Goldberg to have that information sent to the board for review, that would be helpful, since it involves these minutes.
So my understanding, I received, and I assume Chris received an email or a letter like back in February informing me that I had until a certain date and time to say if I was satisfied with the board's action. And so I simply said I wasn't satisfied. And from my understanding from there, it was that the Attorney General would decide to do something on their own or whatever. So it's out of our hands. Like there's nothing expected from me. There's nothing, and I don't think there was going to be anything back to the board unless they made some decision or something.
I'm not saying there was something expected of you, Dave. I'm saying that they sent correspondence to Attorney Goldberg and they were surprised that we didn't get the information. So if we could look in, Abby, maybe you could get in touch with Attorney Goldberg and find out what that communication was and just make sure that the entire board gets it or those involved in this so that they can review it.
I'm not sure what information you're
She said there
referring.
was an email that was sent out to Attorney Goldberg, and she should have sent it out to the board members. Because we sent a response letter, and at that point, we thought that would have satisfied the complaint. But then more progressed from there, and none of that information was received by us as a board. And so there's information out there somewhere, if we could just find out what that information is.
I'll check to see if we have anything. I thought the Attorney General would take time to review it. So I expected it to take a while, not be so quick.
We didn't even know it was being reviewed. I happened to be on there today and saw that it was being pending. So I contacted them and they said that we should have been notified, that they had notified Attorney Goldberg. And we have no documentation of that at all. So I'm just asking for the information.
Okay, I'll see what it is.
So it looks like we're not ready to approve the meeting notes. So we'll review those for the next meeting. Is there any other action?
One other thing is we usually collect signatures at this meeting for any plans that you have to sign or any documents that will go to the registry or land court. I am going to be in the office tomorrow if anyone has any time, if they're able to drop by, or I could try to set up a time where I could bring the forms by and have you sign them. I don't know if you're able to let me know, or you could let me know individually when you're around, and I could have those forms for you to sign, and then once I get all the signatures, they go to the registry and land court. That way, if you sign any documents, they have the record of your signature. So if you can let me know, after tonight, any times that you're around, and either you could pop by Carby Street, we'll make sure I'm there, or I could bring it by for you to sign.
Abby, does it need to be, is it like a form that all the signatures have to appear on together, or can we just send you a scan of our signature?
Yes, we do have, it is one form that I have all of you sign. So it would be easiest I'll hold on to that form, so I'll collect your signatures. So if you're around and you're able to come by Carby Street tomorrow, if anyone is, let me know. If not, I'll reach out to you on another time that might work.
What time would we be at Carby Street tomorrow?
Probably 10 till 10 a.m. I have a phone call at Nora at 10, but in the middle of the day, early afternoon, I'll be there.
All right.
All right. Does someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, we'll do a roll call vote. Chris,
Aye.
Debbie,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. We are adjourned.
Thank you.